Welcome to the Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast. Thomas Miller, thank you so much for stopping in here. I wanted to share something with you that I'm working on just right at the moment, and I thought, I'm going to share that out because I thought you guys would get excited about this and want to hear a little bit about what I'm working on, which is called the Subconscious Mind Mastery Science of Getting Rich. This is going to be a 3-part set, if you will. There will be a paperback, a Kindle, and the crown jewel of the project is going to be the audiobook. I am taking that book that has meant so much to me, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddles, written so long ago, goodness, it seems like forever, and I'm remaking or adding my own notes, my own commentary, my own stories, and my own production value to create it as an audiobook that will be available on Audible and iTunes, and then, of course, the print collateral that I just mentioned. So I'm right at the maybe halfway point of the production or a little bit more, and I wanted to just share with you the introduction here, the little story that I told to introduce it, and that will give you a little sample of what will be coming. So this is about 7 minutes, not quite 7 minutes long. I'm going to play that, and then at the end we'll come back with a few comments on some of the main takeaways from the program. So not only do you get a little idea of the program, but then also you'll get some takeaways to apply to your own life as well. So there will be a preface ahead of this from Wallace Waddles, and then this is my introduction to the book and audiobook. You have an inalienable right to be rich. This is a program of change and transformation. It is about a long understood but all too little practiced way of living according to the natural universal laws. In fact, not only do we not practice it, it's actually been deprogrammed out of us not to. This is about a science that allows you to attract anything you want into your life, as long as you are aligned with your purpose and following the concepts you are about to learn. In 1910, a fairly obscure man without formal education, Wallace D. Waddles, published a concise book outlining the process he used to accumulate money when he lived on a farm and had no formal education. He learned, then practiced, then documented the science of getting rich. His contribution to mankind was almost in a way angelic. The book was published shortly before he died. It was almost as if it was a gift to society. Some 15 years later, one of the richest men in the world, Andrew Carnegie, commissioned a young journalist by the name of Napoleon Hill to study some of the richest men in the world and find similarities in how they got rich. In 1937, Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich, which to date has sold at least 100 million copies worldwide. Certainly, both Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie were aware of the science of getting rich. Fast forward nearly 100 years, in the early 2000s, a young daughter by the name of Haley Byrne gave a copy of the book to her mother, who she had seen struggling after a failed relationship, a struggling business, and a general loss of hope. Rhonda Byrne was inspired enough to give the concept a try. She is an Australian filmmaker. She put together the idea and then the budget to create a movie explaining the very concepts that had been laid out in the little green book. She and her film crew left Australia for America to interview leaders in this movement of Thoughts Create Our Reality. The problem was she had no interviews lined up, but she had an idea, and she held the vision of that idea in her mind throughout the whole production process. One person after another fell into place, from people like Jack Canfield, Michael Beckwith, Mike Dooley, Bob Proctor, and many more. All these interviews came together from the power of her intended thought. The movie was released in November 2006, and so far, as of this recording, has sold over 30 million copies worldwide and has been translated into 50 languages. Rhonda Byrne's vision, the very thing that we are going to talk about in this audio series, has truly helped change the consciousness of the entire planet. And one more story, if I may. Fast forward a few more years to 2009. Following 2 divorces, alienated from my own kids, and in a job that was literally ruining my health, I too was led by the universe to find this material, and it literally changed my entire life. It taught me that there are universal laws in constant motion, in constant operation, that govern how we can attract things into our life. I learned that this is indeed a science of natural law, and in that same year, I actually put it to practice, and you'll hear that story inside the program. And let me just tell you, it worked, and I was a believer. It happened fast, too. And now it is time to pass the material on again, this time to you. There have been a number of renditions and variations of this 1910 public domain classic produced over the years, but it's time for some modernization, not in the concepts, but in the way that it's delivered. For example, the consciousness of the planet has shifted, and now women are equally inclusive, so some of the original language that is very male-focused can be broadened out to include everyone. We know now, too, that this works for kids as well as adults. And I will be adding my own commentary and own life's stories in between these pages. And in so doing, putting this material into your hands so that you can learn, practice, and implement it, and then ultimately pass it on to someone else. My name is Thomas Miller. In 2013, I followed an intuitive prompt to begin a podcast. That podcast, called Subconscious Mind Mastery, now in its 10th year as of this recording, has over 300 episodes and a journey of transformation. In 2019, I started the daily Fun Astrology podcast, reaching thousands of people with a daily message of the energy in the sky. I followed another prompt in 2013 that led to my narrating over 30 audiobooks for Frederick Dodson and later for author Stephen Forrest in the astrology genre. All of these things combined have completely changed the trajectory of my own life. And this material will change the trajectory of your life if you implement it and apply it as it is presented. Because truly, Wallace Waddles did capture the formula of the science of getting rich. And so now my gift to you, some of my stories, some of the pages from my own life, and reading to you the pages of Wallace Waddles in a more contemporary update. It is time once again to pass along the secret science of getting rich. Wow, just listen to that. I'm like, whoa, this is powerful. It has been powerful. And I wanted to give you just a few things that have come up as I've been working on this for hours. What is one takeaway? Well, you're going to be surprised. This is kind of like when Fred asked me, what is your favorite book? And I said, Lives of the Soul. And he was like speechless. Well, my main takeaway from working on this program has been, as Wallace Waddles explains the difference between working on the creative plane versus the competitive plane. And it makes me realize and just frame up, and you'll hear if you get the audiobook, which I sure hope you do, or the book, you'll get the idea of how many examples and ways we all work on the competitive plane. Have you ever pulled into a parking lot and there was one parking place and 3 cars? That's the competitive plane, right? You see it every day. I was driving down. There's not any traffic where I am. It's wonderful. Thank you, Jesus. I have finally done something right. But there is this one bypass, I guess, that goes around town, and you queue up on a lane to get in and onto it. And I was in the right lane. There was ample car length in front of me. I'm really now paying attention to not getting too close to the cars in front of me. And this guy comes screaming up in the left-hand lane, slams on his brakes, cuts all the way across to me, and then boom, there he is there he goes on the thing. And I was just like, you poor soul. Such a hurry. Because when we're not on the competitive plane, we have plenty of time. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago in the Healing Convergence, just having time. And then that this guy has to come up and cut in like that. And what it's framing to me now is a different reaction, where before I probably would have had some kind of reaction, depending on what was going on the rest of that day. This time, I just observed, and I watched the guy, and I had compassion. Because number one, I was in the space of I have plenty of time, so I was not in a hurry. The second thing is, I just observed that competitive plane. It was like this guy has to get that space because he has to beat me out and everybody else that was behind him. Poor soul. That soul has no idea that he could create anything that he wanted. So he's out there spending his energy, and when you expend your energy and then multiply it over the years, that becomes a health problem. Then he's just burning up his energy, probably smokes too. I don't know, that would fit. But he's going to have a health problem at some point. But on the creative plane, we can create exactly everything that we want. See, I don't create close-in parking places. Why? I want the exercise. So the creation is really pretty easy. That's almost not fair, because you can't use the parking example anymore. It's like, well, wait a minute, I want to walk. I want the extra steps. That's good for my body. That's healthy. One of you, a podcast listener, gave me a wonderful present for my birthday last fall. It's a Garmin watch that typically I hadn't been wearing a watch, but boy, I love this thing because it tracks everything. It actually can monitor my heart rhythm to see if it's in rhythm. And then, of course, it counts the heart rate and then the steps and the whole thing. And if you're listening, you know who you are, and thank you very much again. I love it. But one thing it has done is given me the awareness of the value of those extra steps in the parking lot. So if there were 3 cars in one space, that's okay. I'll just park a little farther away and get a few more steps in. And to me, that's a positive. But it kind of ruins a good, manifesting story. But that's part of, again, just operating on the non-competitive creative plane. We'll create something better. So the thing I would leave you with here is to be thinking about the whole idea of, am I choosing at this given moment to create, or am I competing for a limited supply? And as you even start to work that into your life of releasing the competitive and following the creative, you will be in a perfect position when this book comes out and will really get a lot from it. I hope, because it's being released as an audiobook and not a course, that it will be easy for you and enjoyable. And then, of course, some of you will want to get the book, the Kindle, or the paperback to either supplement or that you just prefer that. I just hope that you'll participate in it. It is going to be an incredible resource, and you know how much this material has touched my own life, so it's a beautiful thing to pass it along. I have to keep moving on the project, so I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you, and I hope that you truly do enjoy the journey. I'm Thomas Miller. Thanks for listening.